We got to talk about India and their CBDC. You guys ready for this? Since we're on the topic of CBDCs. So India's central bank seeking privacy legislation for retail CBDC users. I feel like India is one of those places where they ban crypto, but then they unban it, and then they ban it, and they do it again. But with this time, we're talking about the good old CBDC. So they're pushing for legislation that will allow users of its retail CBDC to delete any transactions from the network's ledger in order to maintain to be anonymous. I can never pronounce that word, ever, ever, ever. The finance ministry may have to bring legislation to the parliament for the bank to have legal backing to introduce the delete option. Reserve Bank of India is currently running retail and wholesale CBDC pilots, and the retail CBDC is currently active in 15 cities. 100,000 customers and 13 banks are participating in the pilot. The delete option makes me scared. Blockchains are supposed to be immutable. I don't know how I feel about this. Will, I'm going to give this to you first.
Wendy, you should like this story. This is about retail privacy with our overlords issuing CBDCs. So you should be a big fan of this entire story.
No, because they're going to delete their own transactions, and it's going to get predatory. It's going to get scary, and the ivory towers will win yet again. No.
I think they would be able to delete their transactions, whether or not you are able to delete yours. So that would be my one counter there. This is an interesting story, not only because it's from India, which we have tracked, I think, pretty well in the show, the back and forth developments like you highlighted there, Wendy. One day they're pro-crypto, the other day they're not. One day they're levying a new tax, the other day they're not. One day they're against entrepreneurs there, one day they're not. It's a very confusing landscape to cover. But they have been working on CBDC. We've done that for quite a while. They have a few programs out there, including some that are running in Indian cities right now. This privatization aspect of it, I think this is more of a PR move, and it was leaked to CoinDesk, so great scoop here. But if they're going to issue it, it's more of like a marketing thing in my mind, because being able to delete something on a ledger like this would be possible in a proof of authority network like a CBDC, where you have basically a few central authorities that are able to like monitor the chain and move transactions around. That is like technically feasible. But if you're really looking for privacy, the question is from whom? And in this context, it's really saying that I want to protect my privacy, or I want to be private against other consumers on the network, but not necessarily the government. But if you think about crypto privacy in general, we're mostly trying to be private against the government. So in this case, it's not really private against people that anyone in crypto really want to be hidden from. So that'd be like my biggest critique of this whole story. Zach, I want to throw it over to you. Get thoughts on that.
That was a good take. I mean, you're on fire today, Will. I got nothing more. I mean, this is a nice Armitage scoop. Armitage is really well sourced in India as it relates to crypto issues. So congrats to him for getting this one on the record. Yeah, CBDCs and privacy are going to be like the two things that are always in the same breath, right? Like, oh, Big Brother, as we talked about this with the DeSantis story just now, right? With Florida being like, hey, this is a tool of Big Brother surveillance, right? So obviously each of these countries who are rolling out a CBDC or in the process of rolling out a CBDC, or even just thinking about rolling out a CBDC, really need to address these privacy concerns head on, because the last thing that seemingly anybody wants is political parties knowing how you're spending your money. And that's what, when used poorly, these CBDCs can engender, right? China is probably the farthest ahead on a CBDC experiment in terms of people using it, in terms of, again, sort of airdropping these benefits for various reasons, but also, stipulating that it has to be spent by a certain time, or else it goes away, right? That's what CBDCs can enable, and those are some powers that the government hasn't previously had, that central bankers haven't previously had. So whether it's privacy or some of these other terms and conditions that come attached to whether or not you're receiving these CBDCs from your federal government, these are conversations that really, really, really need to happen. And I think, to the DeSantis story, again, disagree with his politics all you want, but it is fantastic to have this at least being advanced in the US context around these conversations about how to make a CBDC that maintains some of these privacy benefits, rather than flouting them and rather than enabling surveillance that has yet to be seen in sort of modern financial history. So yeah, every country is going to have to reckon with this. But certainly CBDCs and privacy are going to be a talking point for the foreseeable future. Wendy, what do you think?
I don't like it. It makes me sad. We're going to get brainwashed that we need this, that this is a good thing. But in reality, it's just going to be complete control and complete submission by the underdog. So I'm sad.